I'd like to call to order the Veterans Advisory Committee for the City of Sebastian. Let's rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag on our right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Heish.
Here.
Mr. Doobie.
Doobie, stay here. Doobie, here. Sorry.
That's okay. Ms. Kinlan. Here. Mr. Jordan is not present, and Mr. Newland.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. The minutes of the last meeting have been distributed by email. You've had a chance to read. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I so moved.
Or do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it. Okay. We're going to, okay, under unfinished business, sewer project update. Jerry Peeler, please.
Talked with Todd last week. He was supposed to call me this morning because I'd give him another phone call. He's hoping to get started in October, but the rain has held him up because they can't start digging. But he says everything is a go. It's all laid out, plotted out or whatever. So he's just waiting, I think, for the weather to clear so they can start doing something.
Okay. How are the finances going on that?
It's in escrow.
It's in escrow. Okay, fine.
Escrow, yes.
All right. Mr. Griffin, do you have any other questions on that right now?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Moving on to new business. Veterans Day, November 11th, will be our next use of the park. And we'll have a new person in charge for this one time. So we'll take care of that, making sure that he communicates. You want him to communicate with you or Chris?
I think both would be appropriate, sir.
Okay.
Also, want to get the announcements out to members of council and other dignitaries that you may want to invite. So we'll try to do that as soon as possible, if we could, please.
Okay, sir, we can do that. Okay. All right, great. We've discussed the possibility of moving a military museum to Sebastian. I'd like to welcome a new member of this of this committee, Lynn Doobie, who owns the museum. Can you tell us what is going on? I want to press the button. There we go.
Oh, no, where's this book?
Okay, lights on.
Here?
There you go.
Now you're live.
What's going on with the museum?
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping we'll get favorable support from the city on a phase that we're developing now. We're trying to develop 3 different phases over at the Legion to see if we can locate it on that grounds there. With a building that will be donated up the road on Route 1, next to where that project is right now, just beyond the church on the left. The owner there is willing to donate a 24 by 44 foot building with the understanding that we'll pick up the transportation costs, et cetera, which isn't a problem.
Okay.
Which is not a problem. It's not a problem to put a concrete pad down by the Legion to accommodate it either. So the question is, and I direct it back to Jerry, whether or not we can move forward on phase 1 of the project that we have going to see if we can get the okay to locate it there.
Will this building be big enough to accommodate the museum?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Hey, can I share a little bit with that? Todd is going to draw out a 10-year plan for us for the American Legion. When I talked to Corey in the building department there, she said it would be better for us if we could come up with, rather than just one portion at a time that we would like to do, or expansion, is to come in with a 10-year plan. So we're working to get that done. He's going to give us a layout. I was hoping I'd have that today to show everybody, but I don't know whether he's had a chance to do that or not. But he's going to, anyway, we'll have a 10-year plan drawn up, scaled, and everything to our plot over there that the city could actually look at.
Can I comment on that, sir?
Yes, please.
Today I brought the city engineer with me and the community development director, Frank Watanabe, because I might have to cut out of the meeting a little bit early. But I think, Frank, maybe you might want to comment on that, about any expansion they have over there in a 10-year plan.
Yeah, what you had discussed through the building department is what we'll need to look through the community development planning. Typically what we want to do is we don't want to look at a phased project individually. We want to look at the whole project as a whole and make sure you meet all the requirements regarding any planning, ordinance, and setbacks, any parking requirements, trip generations. All that needs to be looked at as a whole, and then you scale back and do phases of it. And that way we don't get in trouble if you try to piecemeal a project, and then you don't have the capacity for the parking, or for what, you know what I'm saying? If you look at the bigger picture, then you can make sure you accommodate all the requirements as needed through the planning and then through the building department as a facility.
Yeah, as soon as I get that, Frank, I'll see that you get a copy of it or whatever.
I think the best thing would be, as soon as you have a concept or anything, schedule a time with the community development department, Jan or myself, and we can sit down and go over the details.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Anything else on the museum? Okay, I'd like to move on to C, which is not on your agenda, but it's been brought to my attention that during the ceremonies at Memorial Park, we've added a flag line that lines up behind the shooters. Now, the city did an awesome job of putting out pads for the shooters to sit down during the ceremony, which helps our sometimes elderly people immensely. And the pads that went under the grandstands that made them more stable that was beyond anything that we had even imagined before it happened. And we thank the city so much for that. Definite improvements. But since we've added this flag line, on this last ceremony, it ran close to an hour and a half by the time they marched in and then marched out. And some of the more elderly members, including myself, had to be replaced. This is the first time I've ever had to be replaced on a flag line. And it was hot, and it was long, and so forth. But a lot of the people do have to be replaced. And what we're considering is asking the possibilities of adding a line of chairs, about a dozen, and then in the ground placing a PVC pipe that would accommodate the shaft of the flags. Now, the question in my mind is this feasible with taking into consideration sprinkler lines and possible utility lines?
This is probably a better question for the city engineer, but one of the things that we've been talking about doing is some additional concrete pads over there. One for the band that normally comes up
Oh, that would be great.
and do a wraparound around the memorial itself, type of thing. The one pad we have that I think you're talking about, Mr. Chairman, is kind of right in back of where the speaker's lectern is.
Yes.
Okay. And what I understand you're saying is that that's not wide enough for two rows of chairs?
No, it isn't.
It's not wide enough?
No, it is not wide enough presently.
Perhaps we could add to that, the size of that pad,
Okay.
where we could get 2 rows of chairs in there. So there'd be a row for the shooters and the row for the flag line. I'm thinking probably at least 10 feet wide, maybe, something like that.
Well, realistically, we're looking for about 12 chairs for the flag line. That's about average. If you could fit 13 in, we probably could find another flag, the city of Sebastian, perhaps. But anyway, by the time we do all the service flags and then the flags for the VFW and the Legion and the auxiliaries and riders and POW, we're looking at about 12, 13 flags. So that's wider than the shooters. So while I'm not looking for additional concrete necessarily, if we can get put chairs and something to help support the flags.
Frank and I will take a ride down there tomorrow.
Okay.
And take a look and see if we can't come up with something. I'm a little reticent to put PVC or a metal pipe in the ground where they can put the flag in the ground for the 4 times a year that we have the ceremony, because that'll get grown over. I just worry about the safety aspect of that.
Okay.
So, but let us take a look at this other, expanding that concrete pad perhaps. And if there was enough room, enough of a concrete pad for 2 rows of chairs, would that be sufficient to where the individual could be seated and just hold the flag? Would that be
Yes.
acceptable?
I think so.
Okay. How about if we take a look at that and we'll report
Okay.
back to you?
All right, fine.
We probably won't be able to get that finished. I mean, depending on what Frank and I find out tomorrow, I don't know that we'll be able to have that accomplished by November 11th.
Well,
We'll,
even if we can get a row of chairs for them to sit down during the ceremony. Is that,
Okay.
yeah,
sure, we can do that.
okay, fine.
Wayne,
Okay, yes, sir.
if you're pouring the concrete pads, Joe, is there any way that you can take a PVC and make it flush into the pad? That way it wouldn't be a safety hazard?
To answer your question, that's what I was thinking about. We could do that when we pour the concrete. We could pour the individual PVC pipes, and we could put caps on them. So that way materials won't fall into it. So when you use, you just pull the cap off and drop the pole in. We could
Good
do
point.
that.
Good point. Okay. All right. Are there any other things to be brought forth? Yes.
No, with the park, that was Todd that just called me, I wouldn't have to answer. He's in the hospital with reticulitis, and said they supposed to turn him loose, but there was reason that he hadn't got any answers yet.
Okay.
I just want to let you know.
All right. Mr. Doobie, you have anything to add?
Well, I have a couple things on
Okay.
a different matter. We're not getting any publicity in the local newspaper. Now, they printed calendar of events all the way up to about 6 or 8 months. And if you look down there for Veterans Day, they cover Vero very nicely, but there's no mention at all of Sebastian. And many of our people in Sebastian read the newspaper. So I'd like to know, do we have a PR person, or who's responsible for notifying the newspaper of upcoming events in the Sebastian area?
This is our responsibility, isn't it? Yes.
We do not have a PR person who works for the city. Some cities do have that, actually, but we do not. And I don't think that the city has ever had a so-called PR person. It doesn't surprise me that we're being overlooked.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. That happens all too often with our newspaper. So I just think what we have to do is we do have these announcements on Channel 25, on our website, things like that. And that's how we get the notices out to the public. Also through our meetings, of course. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't look at the meetings and they don't see these announcements, but we try to get it out as best we can. But sometimes they do our announcements. Most of the time, I don't think they do. But I do see, when we get our 4th of July or our other Veterans Day coverage, things like that, we do get newspaper coverage after the fact, picture in paper, something like that. But no, we don't have a PR person per se who does that, sir.
Okay. One other item.
Yes, sir.
On the surplus military items, the present commander-in-chief is not releasing any at this time. But I intend to stay on top of it, even if I have to wait for the new commander-in-chief to get the okay for the military service. I was quite fortunate up north. I got 2 helicopters, 3 105 howitzers, and a self-propelled howitzer that looks like a tank. So I'm going to stay on top of it. But at present, he's not releasing any surplus.
Okay.
I don't know why, but who am I to question it? Right?
When you move the museum, are you
Bring
bringing
something
those with you?
me? No. You sign a contract, and the city is aware of it too, that you agree to maintain it because the government is only loaning you this equipment. Your responsibility is to maintain it. How do you maintain it? Make sure it doesn't get rusty, make sure, parts are, and do whatever you have to do to protect it, from kids climbing all over it and everything. But that's not a problem. If we get that far, I'll have some suggestions how to maintain it.
All righty.
Okay? Those were the 2 things that I had. I'm not aware of anything other than that, except I would like to move to the other end because this is my dead zone from veterans. So if I get on the other end, this is my open zone. I'd be
Yeah,
much
same
better
way,
off.
dude.
Thank you.
We can arrange that.
Thank you very much.
Commander Michael, you have anything?
No.
All righty. Mr. Peeler, you have anything else?
No, sir. I think we should.
Okay, Shar, you have anything for us? We are so happy that you joined us today. All righty. If there's no other business, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Move it.
So moved. Is second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The meeting.